He must observe people and their behavior and try to understand their mentality. If you have to put on the screen a character who has a bombastic quality or an arrogance or whatever, and you in your own mind are a humble, quiet person, you've got to raise yourself to the heights of being a bombastic in order to put on the screen the qualities this character would have to have. And as Stanislavski said, an actor has to learn these things because he has to interpret so many different people, so many different times. We have to interpret so many different animals, so many different people, so many different personalities. We're in the same boat that Stanislavski's children were. Now we come to something that shouldn't be too difficult to understand. We've always felt that we had to thoroughly visualize the things that we wanted to put on the screen. We have a story. The story's pretty well outlined. The director has had his input. The actor or the animator is now charged with plussing these things because it's his drawing that's going to be on the screen eventually with the help of all these other people. But there's one big thing, there's one big question that we keep asking each other, and that is, can we see what we're trying to draw? Can we see this situation? Do we understand it? Can we visualize it up here? Dave Hand, who was one of our early supervising directors, used to say to an animator, when you pick up a scene from a director or a series of scenes, go down to your room and spend half your time thinking about it, working it out in your mind, thumbnailing it, getting it completely organized within your thinking, your thought processes. Then sit down to your drawing board. And invariably we see people who get something from a director and they go downstairs and they immediately use this darn old layout and whatever they have and they start to animate. This is nothing but disaster. You've got to have a visual picture up here. If we can't see it, we can't draw it. And this is something that we've been trying to get our young people to understand, and our older people too, including me. Now, basically, if we're going to entertain people, we have to have acting, and acting is basically what the body does. You may think that the frown on a person's face suggests anger. You may think that the wide eyes suggest surprise. The wide eyes and the wide open mouth suggest surprise. Now they do. But we have found, and it was always Walt's contention, that if the body doesn't say it, it isn't being said. All these other things, the facial expressions, are embellishments. There's a thought that goes this way, that no inner experience. There is no inner expression or experience. Nothing inside of us that doesn't have an external physical expression. You ever stop and think of that? There's nothing happens up here that isn't going to echo somewhere out here, which is more visual than what's happening up here. My expanded chest and my strut is going to show a lot more arrogance than my knitted brow and maybe the haughtiness that I might express in the mouth position or something like that. That arrogance and that haughtiness is going to be expressed in that body. Then, if I want to see how my brows are knit or whatever, to show my disdain for things around me, that is secondary. I'd better get that body doing it first. So, we have a very strong conviction that, well, for instance, take Donald Duck. This guy's always getting mad. Now, can you imagine Donald Duck going into one of his tantrums just casually leaning against a lamppost? He wouldn't do it. Visually, that body just all over every place. His arms are flying, his bill, which is very visual, is quacking. He may have his brows knit, he may have his eyes shut. You don't even give a darn about that. What you're concerned with is what's happening with that body, you know? It doesn't make any difference what kind of mood we happen to think about, happiness, whether it's sorrow, whether it's whatever. This can go on and on. There isn't a thing that we do that isn't reflected in some body action that we have. Oh, here's this quote from Da Vinci. Build a figure in such a way that its pose tells what is in the soul of it. You want me to quote it again? Leonardo said it. Build a figure in such a way that its pose tells what's in the soul of it. Unquote. Now, we talk about the body. Now, the body, there's more, for instance, than just the attitude of the arrogant person. There's the strut, there's the walk as a whole. So, what we want to tell the audience, we're going to tell him not only in body attitude, but in the way that body moves. Now, this would be true with any kind of any character we have. It's that visual presentation of the inward feelings of that character that are exposed in what his body does. Now, in order to show the sincerity that we have to show, we've got to look for these crazy little things like rhythm through the body, so that a pose has a good positive appeal. We've got to consider weight, we've got to consider balance, we've got to consider a good silhouette. We try to figure that, well, you've got just a few frames on film to put over an idea to an audience. And if you're going to lose your silhouette, in other words, we'll make every effort possible to get arms that are out beyond the body or legs that are apart so that you feel the space in between them. These make drawings easy to read in the matter of the split seconds we see them on the screen.